Hi, this is R.N. Bhaskar from BKBB, and this channel brings to you every week, a policy analysis, a story, a conversation. But the mornings, we bring to you what we like to call news behind the news. We pick up a few headlines that have appeared in major newspapers, and then we try to analyze what has happened and give you a better perspective of the news behind the news. And yes, as always, I have some reminders for you. The first reminder is do click the subscribe button if you've not clicked it already. Click the like button. But most of all, tell everyone you know, all your friends, about us. Because we talk about things that most media channels don't talk about. There is also one more thing. Towards the end of the show, we have a question answer session where you can post your questions and comments. We pick up a few of them and we try to reply to them and respond to them. And today, I have my co anchors. There's Katya. Welcome, Katya. It's nice to have you here. And we have Anurag. Good to see you, Anurag. Thanks for being here. And today, we're going to discuss three important news developments. These are the titles. The first one is how Trump is suddenly losing on many fronts. In the last 24 hours, several things have happened. The second is how India is going to start importing LNG and ethane from the USA. And the third, a very interesting story on BluSmart and how its plans may come a crop. Let's take the first story first. The first story is interesting because of many reasons. It's interesting because all of a sudden you have Canada hitting back at the US in a way nobody could imagine. This could have happened only because of China. China decided to start importing its oil that it used to import from the US from Canada instead of this tariff country. China has reduced oil imports in the USA by 90%. From a peak of 29 million barrels, it has come to only 3 million barrels. And Canada is a beneficiary, which has got its first order of over 7 million barrels. Now, when you have this kind of large shifting of oil imports from USA to Canada, Canada is a beneficiary. Canada managed to tell USA it's not the 51st state. But then there is something more that's happened. Because Trump's people went to the courts and said that we will not comply with the court's instructions about the El Salvador deportation, and because Trump's authorities decided to deport him in spite of a restraint by the courts have slapped a criminal contempt case against him. This could have very serious ramifications. And after all the states have sued Trump and have challenged his authority to have a special directive and the executive orders passed under the grounds of a so-called emergency, the last to join in was California, which accounts for 14% of US's GDP. When you have so many things happening, there's also one more thing that's happened. And that is investors have begun departing and not investing in the US. And this is where Mr. Trump is possibly going to lose the most severely, because when investors go away, you have a situation where America will lose its money. Look at the way coupon rates have gone up. These charts from Brookings, one of the most important think tanks in America, pointed how Trump's tariffs are distorting all funds flows into the US. And if money stops coming to the US, the wheels of commerce will grind to a halt. and other retaliatory measures by China, by Canada, by EU have yet to come in. India is quiet on this. But then India is trying, may bail out the US to some extent, as the next story will tell you. And could you, Anurag, who will talk about how India could be bailing out the US?
Good morning. India is planning to abolish taxes on ethane and LPG imports from US, which is reported by Reuters yesterday. Now, this decision could soon see the light considering the broader negotiation with the US to reduce India's trade surplus, which stands at 36 billion as of now, and to ease its own tariff burdens. India could also double its energy imports with a view to grow bilateral trade to $500 billion, which is planned to achieve by 2030. Now, the increase in ethane imports could lead to more ethanol production, which could benefit India immensely. So, ethanol is used for many purposes, be it to produce feedstock or an essential ingredient used in alcohol beverages. But most importantly, ethanol is blended with petrol to create fuel for our vehicles. India has already achieved 20% of ethanol blending in all petrols sold nationally by March 2025. And it aims to increase it to 30% by 2030. This blending has already resulted in saving more than 1.2 trillion in foreign exchange as well as crude oil substitute of about 19 million metric tons in the past decade. The only challenge to increase the import of ethane would be the current supply chain shortages that India has through ships from USA to India. Now, coming to the liquid petroleum gas imports and cutting its taxes from USA could be a good sign and not could not be a good sign for India, as this story was covered last week on BKBB, where we covered where we covered the reason of the price hike by 50% for LPG gas sold in every household in India. So the reason behind it was the supply and demand discrepancy and the current shortages in production of LPGs by the oil companies. Also, the increase in the LPG prices was related to 60% of its dependency on imports. So, as India plans to cut the taxes on LPG gas and also plans to increase its imports, would not be a motivation for Indian oil manufacturers to increase their production and to sell LPG gas, which is essential for every household at a lower prices. So this the reduction in taxes and increase in import in energy could be a bad news and could be a good news to India. What's your take on this, sir?
Because India imports LPG. India imports much of CNG because LPG is like CNG. It's only a nomenclature change. India imports much of its CNG and its LPG from Qatar. So its import will remain the same. It's only switching some of the imports from Qatar to USA. I'm not sure about ethane imports because the last 5 years, sugarcane companies have already ramped up production and set up ethylene and ethane manufacturing capabilities so that they could be blended with petrol. What happens to those capacities? Will they have to cut down production? I don't know. It's early times, but in a way, I can understand the US's desire that we import LPG because gas which comes out cannot be sold on the stock market. Trump's desire is to increase gas production in the US. For that, it needs a committed buyer. So until it finds a committed buyer, it cannot increase production because it cannot stop production in gas. So the LPG imports is part of the US strategy, and India could bail it out provided it does not hurt India. I don't think it's going to hurt India because India is already importing LPG and CNG. What will happen is that US gets comfort, India gets comfort, it'll go on. But there are other places where India is finding turbulent winds rocking it. And that's a story that Katya brings to you. Katya, good to have you.
Hello, sir. So we've all talked about cash burn in startups. This is a very interesting startup, which is with the promoters are burning cash for themselves. So BluSmart. So on the giving the background, BluSmart is an EV ride-hailing startup. So it's also a subsidiary of a listed company called Genzol Engineering. Now, what SEBI has found out that the promoters, who are the Jaggi brothers, have been misappropriating funds from both the companies and mostly from BluSmart. They've taken money from BluSmart and spend it for a whole list of personal reasons. Some of them ridiculous too, because SEBI has a very interesting statement that they were using it as a personal piggy bank. Now, SEBI doesn't make statements like this because they've bought a 43 crore apartment at Kemelitas in Gurgaon. It's a DLF property. And then 29 lakh for, a set of golf clubs. I don't know where they would find something so expensive. Personal credit card payments, giving money to the mother and wife makes them good family people, not with company money. And then they also had... and they also taken loans. Genzol had taken a lot of loans from these green sources, from PFC, from Irida, etc., to buy EVs. All this money was rerouted. And another interesting twist to this tale is that they have also invested in Ashneer Grover's company. If you remember, Ashneer Grover, from formerly with Bharat Pay, was also accused of misappropriation of funds. If you remember, if you see a lot of startup promoters tend to back each other up, they invest in each other's startups, but this is got a lot more murkier. There is a lot of story inside which is not yet come out. For now, SEBI had barred them from accessing security markets, but I think it's going to be a very deep story. So why do you think a lot of startups like Byju's, etc., are doing this? Because is it much easier to misappropriate funds in a company where you are actually burning cash and showing losses? Is it easier? Is that why all these stories are coming out? Back to you, sir.
You're right, Katya. It's because there's easy money available. Our regulatory systems are not smart enough to immediately start tracking money when it's raised. And that points to the regulator.
Right.
I mean, buy to raise money. You should be tracking the money right then.
Mm.
When it went and started splurging money on IPLs and whatnot, you should make sure that it given its audited accounts in time and not ask for an extension. Those are warning signals. 3 years he did not file his accounts. Same thing, BluSmart. The second they raise money, someone has to look at end use of that money. And the merchant banker and SEBI are both responsible. None of the merchant bankers have been taken to task and have been asked to reimburse money to the investors. You are right. But anyway, we are running out of time, so I'll just take one little question because we have gone far, far beyond. There is a question from one of our viewers which says that if Trump loses, what will happen? Well, two things happen. One, the celebration, and two, there's more confusion because it'll throw into the works another set of parameters. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But yes, when states go against you, when countries go against you, when consumers or purchasers or imports switch from one country to another, and when you have contempt proceedings of the courts and you're clashing with the courts themselves, there is trouble, big trouble. But most important, investors are flocking away. Don't trust the dollar. I hope someone tells India, which has put most of its reserves in US dollars. And the dollar is going to get weaker. So let's see what happens. But thank you for being with us. And yes, do remember to click the subscribe button, click the like button, and also tell your friends about it. Most importantly, see you tomorrow and have a wonderful day today. Take care, good luck, all the best.